Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. You know what? I need to hear this bell. I don't share this sound often enough. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Hi. I just needed to hear it again. I guess maybe I didn't chant enough. Then all the bhikshus said to Shakyamunibuddha, O world-honored one, as you say, if we segregate ourselves from the four inversions, we shall know the eternal, or outside of time, bliss, self, and the pure. As you have eternally, or outside of time, cut off the four inversions, you know well the eternal, bliss, self, and the pure. If you know well the internal bliss, self, and the pure, why not stay here a kalpa, or half a kalpa, and teach us and turn us away from these inversions? And yet you abandon us and desire nirvana. It's not that he desires nirvana, right? They misunderstand completely. If you look back at us and teach us, well, we shall surely listen and practice the way with all attention. Well, where have you been for 50 years? Why all of a sudden now? If Shakyamunibuddha must, at all costs, enter nirvana, how would we be able to remain with this poisoned body and carry out the actions of the way? We would also follow Shakyamunibuddha, world-honored one, and enter nirvana. Well, he doesn't need to stay here any longer for you to do that. He's already instructed you for years and years and years on how to do that yourself. That is, in fact, the entire teaching of the Dharma. But they're scared. They don't believe in themselves, their samsaric attachments and clinging. They don't feel strong enough to overcome. Sad, isn't it? I was thinking about this, oddly enough, without knowing I was going to read that. Something to ponder, maybe. An analog of sorts. You know, we grow up with the sciences and rhetoric in all parts of society that light, what we see with our vision consciousness, our eyeballs and our brain, our ocularness, devised as it is to detect light. That's what we call seeing in the physical realm anyway. And so we talk, sciences certainly talk about light, its frequencies, its reflectiveness, and we judge all sorts of things by its quality of light or the way light interacts with it. But here's the darndest thing to try to conceive of is that for all of it, the talk, the science, we never speak about it correctly. You see, light isn't, it's both a wave and a particle. No, it isn't. Sorry, now you're going to say, oh, here he goes with his pseudoscience. No, this is science. Light, what we call light, what we perceive as light, quote unquote, is actually an emergent property, and it's emergent only because our facilities, our consciousness of light vision exists. But light, quote unquote, isn't a thing. It's an emission, an expression of a condition of energy. We say a photon is a quantum of energy, but that quantum of energy isn't simply one thing. Whenever we try to measure it, the measurement comes out reasonably close to the same number, but it's not the same. There are tiny, tiny, tiny variations in it. And once again, the only reason there is, quote, light is because something has happened. An interaction has happened. Now, as Buddhists, this should sound very, very, very familiar. Go to the book I gave you guys on Buddhism reference on the engine of life. And I give one expression, an equation for that, but there are several. The equation I offer is quiescent energy through formation, another state, a phase, then begets form. But it's also true that quiescence through formation begets not form, and it just folds in on itself and becomes quiescent again, or mutates into a different form and combines with some other energetic form to then put together another form, or formations, as I say. The formations interweave and intertangle, right? Like the 3,000 realms in a single thought moment. Buddhism talks about this insanely minute interaction of things becoming expressed in myriad ways, from the slight and minute to the gargantuan and influential. This is happening constantly, moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. And whenever there's a phase shift, a change, find the words for what goes on between quiescence and formation. And in the formations, what's happening? How is energy being manipulated, combined, expressed? There's always a leftover or a quest for more, right? There has to be this balance. It's not always achieved. And when it is, there's energy displaced from one area to another, not things yet, until the amalgam congeals into a full expression, and then boom, form. Yeah, atom, electron, whatever. There's always escaping energies. Those escaping energies are the result of the activity. And that's light. Not the activity, the resultant, like throwing a pebble in the water or blowing across the surface of the water. The ripples are evidence that something has occurred. That's what light is. And in the very formulation, it is also karma. Isn't that fascinating? Just like you and I, as we're influenced constantly by energetic innovations and experimentations and combinations and dissolutions and dissolving bonds and so on and so forth, we express, just as light does, that karmic reality, that karmic soup, if you will. So light is its very fundamentally basic form. Then Shakyamunibuddha said to all the bhikshus, "Do not say this. I now leave all the unsurpassed Dharma in the hands of Mahakashyapa." There'll be somebody here to continue to support your practice. I'm not the foundation of it. When will you guys get that through your heads? This Kashyapa will henceforth be the one upon whom you may rely in your moments of doubt or question. This is as in the case where Shakyamuni Buddha becomes the one to whom all beings can turn. The same is the case with Mahakashyapa. He will now become your refuge. This is as in the case of a king who has many territories and who goes on for a tour of inspection, leaving all affairs of state in the hands of his minister. The same with Shakyamuni Buddha. All right teachings are left in the hands of Mahakashyapa. Know that all that you have learned up to now about the non-eternal and suffering is not true. In spring, for example, people go bathing in a big pond. They are enjoying themselves, sailing in a boat, when they drop a gem of beryl into the depths of the water, after which it can no longer be seen. Then they all get into the water and search for this gem. They competitively scoop up all such rubbish as tiles, stones, bits of wood, gravel, and say that they have the beryl. They are glad and take the things out and see that they hold in their hands what they hold in their hands is not true. The gem is still in the water. By the power of the gem itself, the water becomes clear and transparent. As a result, the people see that the gem is still in the water, as clearly as when they look up and see the form of the moon in the sky. At that time, there is a wise man there who, working out a power, slowly gets into the water and gains the gem. Now, I interrupt here with a few words. Let's see what I wrote down. There is something much more profound at play here than the dialogue that does not make explicit. It would seem, as stated, that we are witnessing the simple delegation of authority and tasks to an advanced and noteworthy monk to become the new face of the scholarship and propagation of Buddhism in the Saha realm of earth or mundane existence. Yeah? Mahakashyapa. However, we should remember that the distinction of Buddha and Tathagata continues to color this event. Is it not more true to say that this shift of leadership is part of the larger shift of undeifying Siddhartha? And to identify Buddha, quote unquote, as an impermanent saha or physical world manifestation of Tathagata in the human mind. A human mind, like any other, also capable of Buddha. This is the critical shift that provides meaning, or, to use an earlier term, referent, to all these bhikshunis and bhikshus, that they too can equally manifest the Tathagata within their minds as the experience of Buddha. Moving on. O you bhikshus, do not abide in the thought of the non-eternal, of suffering, non-self, and the not pure, and be in the situation of those people who take stones, bits of wood, and gravel to be the true gem. Obviously speaking to the counterfeit Dharma, right? You must study well the way, how to act. Wherever you go, and meditate on the self, the eternal, bliss, and the pure. Know that the outer forms of the four items which you have learnt up to now are inversions, and that anyone who desires to practice the way should act like the wise man who deftly gets hold of the gem. This refers to the so-called thought of self and that of the eternal, bliss, and pure. End quote. Then all the bhikshus said to Shakyamunibuddha, O world-honored one, you, Shakyamunibuddha, said before that all things have no self, that we should practice this, and that when practiced, the thought of self goes away, and that once the thought of self is done away with, one does away with arrogance, and that arrogance once done away with, one gains nirvana. Thus did you say, how might we understand this? Shakyamunibuddha said to the bhikshus, Well said, well said. You ask this question and intend to dispel your doubt. Imagine there is a king who is dull-witted. He has little wisdom. And there's a doctor who is obstinate. But the king does not know this and pays him a salary. This doctor uses the products of milk to cure all illnesses. Also, he does not know where the illnesses come from. He may be versed in the medicine of milk, but for him there exists no difference between a cold and a fever. He prescribes milk for everything. This king was unaware that this doctor was ignorant and the pleasingly and non-pleasingly, the good, the bad aspects of milk. But there was a doctor who knew 8 different treatments for illnesses and who was able to cure all diseases. This doctor was versed in prescription and medicines and had come from far-off places. And the king's doctor did not know how to ask and learn. He was rash and haughty. You can't teach me anything, right? So the learned doctor cordially invited the king's doctor and looked up to him as an expedient, as his master, and asked of him the secret of treatment. Played to his ego. He said to the king's doctor, I now invite you and make you my teacher. Please be good enough to teach me. The king's doctor said, Well, if you serve me for 48 years, I will teach you the art of medicine. In all that time, I'll surely win out, right? Then at these words, the learned doctor said, Well, I shall do as you tell me. I shall do my best and run errands. Then the doctor, the king's doctor, taking the learned doctor along with him, went to see the king. At this, the visiting doctor explained to the king the various ways of treatment and other things. He said, Please know, O great king, know well, this Dharma is like this, and you will well cure illnesses. On hearing this, the king recognized the ignorance and lack of knowledge of his own doctor. He at once drove him out of the country and respected the new doctor all the more. So that was a quick turnaround. Basically, he just used the ignorant doctor as a tool to get him an audience with the king. Pretty basic stuff, right? Then the new doctor said to himself, It is now time to teach the king. He said to the king, O great king, if you truly love me, please make me a promise. The king replied, I shall give you, should you desire it, even my right hand or any part of my body. That's how much trust I have in you. The doctor said, You may give me all statuses, but I myself do not wish to have much. What I desire you to do for me is to proclaim to the people of every corner of your land that henceforth they are not to use the milk medicine which the former doctor told them to use. Why not? Well, because much harm and poisonous results arise from it. Any person who still takes this medicine should be beheaded. If the milk medicine is not used, there will be no untimely deaths. All will go in quietude. That is why I ask this of you. Then the king said, What you ask me to do is a trifle. I shall at once issue an order and see to it that anyone who is ill does not take the milk as a medicine. Any person who does will be beheaded. At this, the learned doctor made several kinds of medicine, which tasted pungent, buttery, salty, sweet, sour. With these, treatment was given, and there was no case in which illness could not be cured. After some time, the king himself became ill, and the doctor was called in. The king said, I am now ill. How am I to be cured? The doctor thought about the illness of the king and saw that the milk medicine was good here. So he said to the king, What you are now suffering can very well be cured by milk. What I said before about the milk medicine was not true. If you take it now, you will be cured. You are now suffering from a fever. It is right that you should take milk. Then the king said to the doctor, Are you mad? Is it a fever? And you say that if I take milk, it will cure me? Before you said it was poison. Now you tell me to take it? How is this? Do you mean to cheat me? What the former doctor said was good, yet you despised it and said that it was poison, and you made me drive him away. Now you say that it well cures illness. From you say the former doctor ought to excel you. Then the learned doctor said to the king, O king, do not say this, please. A worm eats on a piece of wood, and the shape of a letter comes out. This worm does not know anything of letters. A wise person sees this, but he does not say that this worm understands letters. And he is not overcome by surprise. O great king, please know. So was it so with the former doctor. To all illnesses he gave medicine made from milk. This is as in the case of the worm that eats on wood, as a result of which a form like a letter emerges. The former doctor did not know how to distinguish between the pleasingly and the non-pleasing aspects, the good and the bad. Then the king wanted to know, What do you mean he did not know? The guest doctor answered the king, This milk medicine is harmful, but it is also a mana. How can you say this milk is mana? If you milking cow, if your milking cow has not taken the lees, the slippery grass and the wheat refuse, and if the calf fares well, and if the cow was not grazed too high upon the land, or in a low and wet place, if the cow is given pure water and not made to run or made to live among the bulls, and if feeding is done regularly, and if a place it lives is fit, the milk gained from such a cow well does away with all illnesses. This can well be called the mana of medicine. Any other milk is poison, because it can have bacteria in it, blah, 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 blah. On hearing this, the king praised the great doctor. Well said, well said. Oh, great doctor. Today, for the first time in my life, I know the pleasingly and non-pleasingly, that which is good and that not good in the milk medicine. Taking this, I am now well. I shall at once proclaim to the people that they may take the milk medicine." On hearing this, the people of the country, angry and resentful, said, "The great king is now caught by a malevolence. Is he mad? He cheats us and makes us take milk." All the people, angry and resentful, came to the king. Interesting. This story really plays on the analogy of the influence of others, and how ultimately it becomes the influence on ourselves, our own reason. We cease to reason and simply emulate, and we don't know what we emulate. It's an age-old problem, isn't it? The king said to them, "Be not angry and have no resentment. To take milk or not to take it, all comes from the science of medicine. I am not to blame." At this, the great king and the people all jumped for joy. Wow, they got that pretty quick, didn't they? They all the more respected and honored the doctor and made offerings to him. That is how the people took the milk medicine and regained their health. So now Shakyamuni addresses, after this little story, the monks. "Know, O you bhikshus." The same is the case with Shakyamunibuddha, the alms-deserving, the all-enlightened one, the unsurpassed best trainer, the teacher of the pure land and earth. Shakyamunibuddha, world-honored one, he comes as a great doctor and subdues all the non-Buddhist heretics and bad doctors. In the presence of kings and all people, he says, "I shall become the king of doctors and subdue non-Buddhist heretics." Thus we say, there is no self, no man, no being, no life, no nurturing, no knowing, none that does and none that receives. And I make a little reminder note here, by the way. None that does and none that receives. All physical experiences equal momentum of the engine of life, expressing potential in discrete moment to moment. Right? This illusion that there's a teacher and a learner, a doer and a done upon. This is a relation set up in a samsaric equation of clinging and craving. This two-sidedness, the duality of things. But in point of fact, that's an illusion. Everything is codependent and happening in the same momentum. Oh, bhikshus, know that what the non-Buddhist heretics say is like the case of a worm that eats upon a piece of wood from which, by chance, there appears what looks like a letter. Because of this, Shakyamuni Buddha teaches and says, no self. This is to adjust beings, and because he is aware of the occasion. Such non-self is, as occasion arises, spoken of, and it is also said that there is the self. This is as in the case of the learned doctor, who knows well the medicinal and the non-medicinal qualities of milk. It is not as with common mortals, who might measure the size of their own self. Common mortals and the ignorant may measure the size of their own self and say, it is like the size of a thumb, like a mustard seed, or like the size of a mote. When Shakyamuni Buddha speaks of self, in no case are things thus. So, I'm not going to read that again. I'll just say this. When Buddhism is about the mind. So when Shakyamuni Buddha talks about self, non-self, he's, once again, not obliterating this. He's talking about perception. All of this is something we identify as self, selfness, being. Where Shakyamuni is not concerned about this. He's concerned about our thought of being, our experience of being. Because in that experience of being is where enlightenment exists. The minute you travel out of that Buddha consciousness into this, the many consciousnesses that support this, you're in samsara. You're under the grip of ownership, possession, manipulation. That is why he says, all things have no self. Because all things are constantly, moment to moment to moment to moment, in momentum. This is where the idea of oneness comes from. That when we perceive all of us and everything as happening and experiencing, life is a verb, happening, all at once, the distinctions, the identification become extra baggage, unnecessary. Even though he has said that all phenomena, dharmas, are devoid of the self, it is not that they are completely, truly devoid of existence, self, physical self. What is the self? ? Any phenomena, dharma, that is true, satya, real, tatyava, or tattva, eternal or outside of time, nitya, sovereign, autonomous, self-governing, and whose foundation is unchanging, is termed the self or the Atman. This is as in the case of the doctor who well understands the milk medicine. The same is the case with Shakyamunibuddha. For the sake of beings, he says, there is the self in all things. There is the self in all things. It's this consciousness, the mind is in the same instantiation, moment to moment to moment, with part and parcel of experiencing all phenomena. This is when I say to you, enlightenment is the complete experience of the cosmos moment to moment. Your quote unquote experience of it is the experience of it. This is how there can be 8 billion plus people on the planet, 8 billion plus sentient minds on the planet, 8 billion plus Buddha on the planet. But the Buddha is an eye, an opening to the one Buddha state, experiencing tathagataness. Yes? Does that make sense? If not, use the comments section. Let me know what it is that I'm not articulating well enough. O you, the 4 classes, learn the Dharma thus. Learn it this way. Approach your practice this way. The 4 classes being monks, nuns, lay monks, and lay nuns, right? All right. The next portion of this chapter, which I know is a lengthy one, but lots of effort being made here to bring all of the monks, no matter where they're stationed, up to speed where they should be already. And the next part of this is the 3,000 realms of existence. So it's obvious we've been leading ourselves to this point, right? All right. We will save that for the next video. In the meantime, thank you for your support, all you guys who like and subscribe. That's just basic support. Helps get the word out to more Buddhists, yeah, more people. Those of you who are able to be generous and exercise your Buddha nature, your Bodhisattva, Mahasattva support for this Sangha, who make consistent donations through Patreon or PayPal. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. The words fail me. Thank you. We all thank you. And that also is true for those of you who've bought books, e-books, print books, even mandalas, these digital copies that I have available of an actually Nichiren inscribed mandala. Not some, I don't want to get into it. You guys are precious and certainly motivate me. So thank you for that. Thank you for your practice. The world is in critical need of our influence these days. We can't back off. We can't get distracted. So to that I say, savor your practice. Slow down, really embark upon the meaning of each chant, each sound. If you're not sure what you're saying, look it up. I've given you the tools. Go to the website. It's free, right? The podcasts are free. There's a lot of free information here, but it's worthless if you don't use it. So you can ask about that in the comments too, or email me directly. I'll point you the best I can. I've amassed a huge library of stuff, right? Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you. Take care of your health. Keep your practice strong and determined. And I'll see you in the next one, okay? Thanks so much. Bye for now.